Now, clever use of social media was widely credited with helping Barack Obama sweep to power in 2008 and stay in office in 2012. The company behind his new media campaign was Blue State Digital, which harnessed the power of sites like YouTube and Twitter to build momentum for the US president. Let's take a quick look at some of what they did.
I stand before you today to announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America. And standing up with courage, they somehow managed to change the world. Yes, we can.
Barack Obama has won the Iowa caucuses.
You have done what the Senate said we couldn't do.
He's the first candidate we've ever seen who had an organization that brought together the internet and community organizing.
He makes me care, and he makes me want to get up and go and do something with my life.
Now, Blue State is working with the Labour Party in the 2015 UK election. Bloomberg's Hyde has been talking to the business and joins us now. Caroline, good to see you. Is this a turning point then for the UK in terms of digital campaigning?
I think certainly that's what Blue State Digital are trying to say. It's interesting, this is actually a left-leaning company. Blue is from the Democrats in terms of the United States. Ironically, everywhere else in the world, it's red if you tend to be left-leaning. But they've worked in the US, they worked in the French election, they've worked in Brazil, in Mexico, they say. And interestingly, it's not just governments that they work for non-for-profit organisations like the American Red Cross, or they work even for brands they're moving into, AEG, American Express. But it's all about what they say, message, money, mobilisation. So message, get it through social, get it through email, through videos. Then the money, you start to get the online donations coming through. And then mobilisation, get people campaigning, get people knocking on doors, get them tweeting, get them sharing. And they do think that this is a tipping point. We actually spoke to Sam Jeffers. He heads up the UK team, his EMEA managing director. And this is what he had to say about the galvanisation so far.
I think we're having a very digital election indeed, and you can see that the consumption of the message and the news that people are getting and the way that people are interpreting the news and retweeting and sharing and all those other things is a lot more vibrant than it's ever been before. And you know, I think we'll find that, yeah, you know, when you kind of look back at it a few months from now, we'll kind of see that digital played a really unprecedented role in the campaign.
Very digital indeed. So I think they've asked feeling their moment, and they were brought on by the Labour Party a couple of years ago. They helped, of course, in the Scottish independence campaign as well, trying to say we're better together. That was what they stood behind. But interestingly, it's also now all about basically crowdfunding, raising money, getting much more of your money funded, not through big donors, not through, of course, perhaps the trade unions that the Labour had always depended upon. Interesting statistics coming out as to the amount that Labour have so far raised, and actually still an awful lot coming from, so far, the trade unions, Unison, but they're saying you're not counting the small amounts that we're getting in terms of the small donations online. And interestingly, once again, Sam Jeffers saying this is becoming crucial, in fact. Have a listen.
Thousands of people giving money every week, thousands of people out knocking doors every week, huge, you know, millions of people kind of coming across the message that we're trying to get across each week. So, you know, we've effectively built a whole new kind of architecture, really, for campaigning.
So, exactly, he's starting to say they're starting to see thousands of people giving money, interestingly.
So how does this work? What's the comparison with America and how the funding story works? Because funding rules are very different over there.
Yeah, they are. And actually, he brought up some of the tactics, what they learnt, the lessons in the Obama campaigns. And the money, the sheer scale is a lot bigger in the US,
Yep.
It's got to be said. About 2/3 is coming from online donations now. But he does start to think that this is what we're picking up from, so have a listen.
If you take the American example, you know, the Obama campaigns raised, I think, about $600 million, the 2012 campaign, $600 million from small crowd-funded type donations, you know, out of a total of $1 billion. So it became more important as a proportion than any of the traditional sources of fundraising. I think we're on the verge of that happening here as well. I don't think we're, you know, we may or may not get there in the final analysis, but, you know, it's an incredible shift in how we've been doing our politics here and funding our politics.
We're not at $600 million via crowdfunding quite yet.
Very different campaign at this point.
That's selling a lot of mugs as well.
Exactly.
What about who they're targeting here? Because often when we talk about social media in relation to elections, you're talking about a specific part of the electorate, younger people, perhaps.
Precisely, and he actually wanted to quash that generalisation, because they said, of course, you think digital, you think the youth. And yes, Ed Miliband does actually have an Instagram account, and that is a way of engaging with the youth. That is a way of getting nice behind-the-scenes stories. And interestingly, David Cameron doesn't have an Instagram account. In fact, I think it's rather bitten him once before when he has been caught on someone else's Instagram account. And asleep, I think, was one of his family members took a photo. But it's not just about the youth. This is what Sam Jeffers is trying to say. He's actually saying it's more actually the marginal seats that they're looking at, and it's across a whole remit of ages that they're really targeting on digital, and it can be via Twitter, via Flickr as well. It doesn't have to all be via one particular social media outlet. And I think the way in which it's actually working is, yes, you can engage with a brand, yes, you can get your voice heard via social media, but emails is what really still works the most when you're raising money. And actually, it's about getting people just to make a small opt-in. So what they've done is they use the NHS, perhaps, and you can perhaps go online and look at which number baby you were in the entirety of the NHS. And then suddenly you share that on Twitter, and then suddenly that makes you go out and start to work out where you can meet someone and knock on a door and become a campaigner. I think they're finding that actually, no matter where in England you are, no matter what age group you are, social media and online presence is actually engaging them. It's not just about the youth. And it has to tie in with the boots on the ground strategy, doesn't it? Caroline, thank you very much. Fascinating conversation about digital in this election.